Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You guys know this. It's your boy, KEVO, man. Alright, so today we're going to check out this one. It's called The Philippines Economy is Growing Massively. I already said this a couple years ago when I was in the Philippines, man. I said, the Philippines is no longer that third world country, man. They're trying to develop some of the things they got over there way better than North America, man. The malls, the way, and pretty soon after this train is done, the Philippines going way up there. At least for, like, visiting and traveling and even like living in general. Just people love the Philippines. Anyways, man, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff, and yeah, let's get into this.
The Philippine economy is amongst the fastest growing in the entire world. A lot of people, however, probably doubt that. There has been news over the past few years, and even for the past few decades, that the Philippine economy has performed poorly against its neighbors. The Philippines had once a higher gross domestic product per capita than Vietnam and Indonesia. Yet these two countries have surpassed the Philippine economy. Data from the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, shows that the GDP per capita of the Philippines for 2023 stands at a measly figure of $3.86,000, whereas Vietnam has over $4.32,000 and Indonesia at $5.11,000.
Wow.
These neighbors, which are also amongst the fastest growers over the past few decades, have overshadowed the Philippines. But that's the problem. Comparing these nations to the Philippines have led us to believe that the country has stagnated. They are not growing, at least not as much as these fast growers. However, let me tell you why the Philippine economy has actually been leading in economic growth over the past few years. You see, the Philippines started growing very fast in 2010, the very year where the world has started picking up growth again after the 2008 financial crisis. Now, one should not attach politics too much to the Philippine economy since 2010. A lot of analysts would arguably point out that the previous administration of Benigno Aquino had ensured that the Philippine economy became one of the fastest in Asia. Hence, it received many accolades that his administration helped push the economy to become a rising tiger.
I swear there was also a lot of bad things said about this guy too. I remember doing a video, people said that his family like wasn't the greatest or something. They like somewhere along the line they stole money from the Philippines. Let me know in the comments down below. I want to know.
From being a sick man of Asia. And that is the issue with attaching domestic politics to global growth. Sometimes a country's economy can grow, not just because of the current sitting president and their team, but due to the economy of the world. Let's get back to the economic figures. In 2010, the Philippine economy staged a growth of 7.3%, which is higher than the global average of 5.5% and higher than the advanced economies of 3.2%. Only emerging markets and developing economies had posted similar growth of 7.3% to the Philippines. To put it simply, the Philippine economy grew at a rate that is similar to emerging markets and developing economies. Now, these emerging markets and developing economies are basically countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, India, and China. The great part of Aquino's administration was that it sustained good growth, higher than the average experienced by emerging markets and developing economies. In 2012, the Philippines grew at 6.9%, higher than the developing economies of 5.4%. In 2013, it grew to 6.8%, again higher than the developing economies of 5%. The Philippines continued to grow much faster until 2016, which saw the end of his tenure. The only year the Philippines grew at a subtle pace was in 2011, when it posted a 3.9% growth, lower than the developing economies. But this is where things become quite confusing. When the presidency of Rodrigo Duterte came, the Philippine economy slowed down.
What?
The Philippines was growing at a rate of nearly 7% every year from 2010 to 2016.
That would have went up.
Tenure of Benigno Aquino. When Duterte became the president in 2016, his administration saw a slowing economy. In 2018, the economy grew at 6.3%. Then in 2019, at 6.1%. There were loads of news articles and analysts pointing out Duterte's failure to keep this nearly 7% growth rate. But did you know that when Duterte became president, so did Donald Trump? The US president was in office from 2017 to 2021.
Makes sense.
His presidency had established what was known as a trade war with China. A trade war with China has led to several issues globally. This led to a slower global growth. That is because increased tariffs can lead to higher costs for consumers and businesses, as well as supply chain disruptions. Products that were once cheap due to globalization might see a sharp increase in price. Secondly, the uncertainty caused by a trade war creates a challenging environment for businesses to plan their future investments. Companies are less likely to invest in new projects or expand their operations if they cannot predict future trade conditions. This hesitancy can slow down economic growth as businesses hold.
So it wasn't the Duterte's fault.
Additionally, when tariffs are imposed, countries often retaliate with their own tariffs, leading to a reduction in trade volume. Lower trade volumes can hurt economies that are heavily dependent on exports. And for the Philippines, a nation that has intertwined its economy significantly with global trade, the impact of the US-China trade war was particularly.
Yeah, I bet it was pretty bad for them because US and China, I mean, like a lot of people don't like the Chinese in the Philippines. They say China's always trying to steal their islands. China's constantly invading and stuff like that. And they don't like them. And the thing about it, I think they don't like that Duterte, I think, or something like that was making deals with the Chinese. In the comments, I could be wrong, but that's what I read somewhere, and I remember doing a video about that.
Particularly pronounced. The country's exports include electronics, machinery, and agricultural products, sectors vulnerable to disruptions in global trade dynamics. The slowing down of the Chinese economy, a major trade partner for the Philippines, directly affected Filipino exports. Moreover, the uncertainty surrounding the trade war likely affected foreign direct investments, which are crucial for emerging economies like the Philippines. Yet, despite these, the Philippine economy actually became one of the fastest in the entire world. In both 2018 and 2019, the Philippine economy grew at a rate of 6.3 and 6.1% respectively. Developing economies, however, only posted a growth rate of 4.6 and 3.6% respectively. The world average was also very low at 3.
So they made Duterte look bad, when in fact he was actually ahead. Because it's everyone else, the whole world was lower. So Duterte was doing a great job.
0.6 and 2.8% respectively. This just goes to show that the Philippine economy under Duterte performed very well, despite all the naysayers and critics out there. But that's not where it ends. We can't end it by being very optimistic about his presidency. It was not perfect. In 2020, the Philippine economy suffered a 9.5% contraction, which was one of the world's worst. Developing economies only suffered a 1.8% contraction, and even advanced economies, which were supposed to fare worse, only experienced a 4.2%. Now, there are certain explanations to why this is. The first is because the Philippines' economy is heavily reliant on sectors that were significantly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the main contributors to the country's economy is the service sector, including tourism, hospitality, and retail. With the onset of the pandemic, international and local travel restrictions, as well as social distancing measures, severely impacted.
Yeah, that was awful, honestly. I hope we don't ever go back to that again. Like, those were like the worst years, to be honest. I bought a new vehicle that year, but worst years. I think that I'm gonna keep that vehicle to remind me. Never again should we have this. Honestly, like 2020 was pretty bad. I remember I did travel. I traveled once. I went to Miami during the pandemic. Got to get those booster shots. Wasn't fun. Yeah, I don't want to do that again.
Industries. Another reason is the strict and prolonged lockdown measures implemented in the Philippines. The government imposed one of the longest and most stringent lockdowns in the world to curb the spread of the virus.
Really?
While necessary for public health, these measures resulted in business closures, job losses, and reduced economic activities, contributing to the substantial economic downturn. And furthermore, the Philippine economy's limited diversification also played a role. Unlike some other economies that were able to pivot more easily to digital or other less affected sectors, the Philippines struggled to compensate for the losses in its key sectors. And that is amongst the explanations why, post-COVID, the Philippine economy rebounded strong. In 2021, it posted a rate of 5.7%, although still slower than developing economies and the world average. The strong rebound was seen in 2022 when the country grew at 7.6%, this time faster than developing economies. It took 2 years for the country to once again reclaim its title as one of the fastest growing.
Yeah, because listen, I think the problem was as soon as the Philippines was open again, a lot of tourists just flooded back in because they enjoy the Philippines. They know the Filipino culture is great. And plus, there's a lot of beaches like Boracay, there's El Nido, Siargao, and some nice places that people just wanted to see. And after they opened, like, sure, why not? It's flooded. Like right now, I know the Philippines is flooded with tourism right now. There's so many YouTube channels popping up. And I watch some of these YouTube channels. They just pop up everywhere talking about the Philippines. And they're good. A lot of them are good channels. But just the thing about it, I just personally, for me, being doing YouTube for a while now and doing a lot of like Filipino content, I'll be honest. Yep. A lot of Filipino content. I just think there's so many, it's so saturated now. Like it's honestly so saturated. There is just so many vloggers that go to the Philippines and just talk about the same spot. Sometimes they'll be at the Kauai Falls, and there's just so many people. I remember going back there in 2019. I was in the Philippines, and there wasn't that many people. Like there wasn't so many vloggers and all this thing. Now there's just so many. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Sure, it brings tourism, but there's no like paradise. Right, unless you like go way out to one of the small islands, there's not very many paradises anymore. Like you think about it, the beaches, Boracay Beach used to be so nice. They had to close it down at one point. Now I believe it's reopened. But when I went there earlier, like it was so nice. Anyways, let's kind of round it off.
Economies. Then again, for the very same observation in 2023, the Philippine economy grew at 5.3%. That is a huge drop from 7.6%, but that should not change our perspective as the Philippines had a higher rate than developing economies at 4%. This is the concept that we must always apply, the concept that domestic politics may not always have a role in the Philippine economy. Sure, they do influence economic policies, but there are other factors out there that are very crucial to the economy of the Philippines. Just take a look at the role of overseas Filipino workers, OFW,
tell me about it. Everywhere.
A consistent source of economic stability. These remittances, which form a significant part of the GDP, help fuel domestic consumption and investment, thus cushioning the economy against external shocks. Another factor that has been crucial and is subject to global trends is the business process outsourcing, or BPO, which has become a major contributor to the GDP. The BPO industry not only generates foreign exchange earnings, but also creates millions of jobs, contributing to the reduction of unemployment.
Yeah, that's true. Like I know there's a lot of call centers over in the Philippines. And the thing about it too, a lot of the calls from here in North America gets transferred over to the Philippines. Because, you know, like I said, a lot of Filipinos, they can speak very good English. And that's something that a lot of these North American companies are looking for. And the labor is cheap. It is what it is. The labor is cheap. I believe if the labor gets too expensive, they may start looking at other places. But if the labor stays cheap as it is right now, and the cost of living stays down in the Philippines, I think they will have this going on for a very long time. The BPO will happen very long time. A lot of other countries will source it out to the Philippines, but they got to keep the prices down. If the Philippines develops too quick and their money goes up, it doesn't look as effective or attractive to big North American companies who are trying to like save as much money and put as much money as they can in their pockets.
employment and underemployment. But obviously, we can't simply say that the Philippines government is useless when it comes to dictating the country's economy. They have a role within their economy, but it's more about regulation and sometimes incentives. Their main purpose is to set the rules of the game for businesses, aiming to ensure fair competition, consumer protection, and environmental sustainability. They can also put out tax incentives for certain industries, import-export regulations, and monetary policies, greatly influencing the business environment. And sometimes, as we have seen in the Philippines, they can push state-led infrastructure projects, development programs, and support for key industries. So most of what really...
Yeah, and that's the other thing I like about the Philippines too. There's no like, I don't know, there's so many processes here, like in North America, to get something done. It takes forever, and they can't agree, and you gotta bribe people off and stuff like this. The thing about the Philippines, what I've noticed, like I went to see the SEA Games when I was in the Philippines, and there people were telling me the stadium was built like 6 months. Like, holy, the stadium was built in 6 months. This whole like thing for this the SEA Games, that was like, to me, I'm like, yo, if this was Canada or North America, it'll take a couple of years. They need at least 4 years if they ever had something like that, because there's so many people trying to make money. They don't just care about like how the project is. Sure, there's one or two, a couple people, sure. Majority of the time, everyone's just trying to fill their pockets here in North America. And yes, in the Philippines, I understand people gonna say it happens everywhere. You guys are stop typing. I'm just saying that more Filipino people actually want to see something great happen in their country. That's what it is. They want to see like it happen. This is why, like, sometimes I look at the story of Manny Pacquiao. Like, how does that one guy influence the whole country? Like, legit, if Manny Pacquiao is boxing, crime rate goes down in the Philippines. Think about that for a minute. That means everybody, pretty much the whole Philippines, who has a TV, or if your neighbor has a TV, your uncle has a TV, they're all at that TV sitting down, watching it. That's just crazy, right? Yeah, that's just crazy to think.
Really happens in an economy lies within the corporate sector. These are businesses like San Miguel Corporation, but it can also be the normal restaurant you go to. They all play a role, and the Philippine government just needs to ensure that there are certain policies placed that ensure consumers are protected and are not overpaying. They also need to ensure that there are available transportation options for you to become a consumer.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Anyway, do let us know what you think.
Exactly. That's the thing about the Philippines. They try to improve themselves, and yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Anyways, I'm out. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Bye.